Hello. Hi. Welcome to the podcast. We've had another week.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um I don't know where I was going with that.
Yeah. I did.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyways, let's just kind of get with the podcast. I feel we still kind of playing catch up right now
Let's
because
get
we're
it
on
started.
when
Demonetized.
deep. Oh my god.
What was that?
I don't know, but that got me.
That got me too.
Hopefully that didn't get the audience. Let's just make sure we don't touch anything that way. I'm gonna have to make sure to buy a new XLR mic. Cable.
You may potentially die today. Just in the middle of the podcast, there's just like a whole bunch of static. Like,
Well, I did. So I loaned out my equipment to somebody recently, and then later I found out that the equipment didn't come back in one piece, I guess.
what?
So earlier you saw me wrap a piece of cable around something, right?
Yes.
With like a piece of tape. I found out that I think there's a cut. So I don't know if it was my coworker that did that or it was just happenstance, I guess. That something like that happened, but yeah, I'm gonna have to buy a new cable.
What the fuck?
The problem is this with this mic stand, it's like the cable is built into the mic stand.
Yeah. Also, excuse my language.
Oh please.
I said it would.
If language was an issue, I
The
feel
last episode wouldn't have happened.
the last episode. Well, if I had more cameras and more audio equipment, I think we would actually introduce the sidecar.
He's just there.
He's just there. Don't worry. I'm gonna bump the audio.
Can you say that one more time,
Yeah.
slightly louder with a heavier accent?
Okay. All right. Anyways, today on this episode we're gonna follow episode 73 and 74. So the episodes are Temp Squad and I believe is let me see. Oh no, 73 and 74, right?
Yeah, yee.
Yeah, and Lemillion.
No, it's a lemon.
Please stop.
No, that's banana boat.
Bana- Banana Bay.
No, banana boat.
Okay.
You know the sunblock. Da, 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 da.
Is that a thing?
Banana boat. Da, 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 da.
Is this? Oh, it's an
It's an
Australian.
American thing. It totally is an American thing. I knew that before I knew you. Banana boat.
Okay.
Banana boat. Turns into a scream.
Am I gonna put another technical difficulties thing before we get started? Oh, okay. You know what? Let's get into the episode.
I'm like Hulk. My secret's that I'm always sleepy.
You're
I'm
always like
sleepy.
this. Anyways, so Temp Squad. So we complete aftermath. We get a little bit of a check in on Kirishima and Fat Gum. Um, and there's some stuff that I feel like we haven't mentioned last episode because we were kind of very loopy at that
I don't know
episode.
what happened.
Yeah. So I decided to go back and actually watch the episodes again. So there was just some stuff we kind of forgot to mention. There was the villain that kind of goes into the walls and kind of like makes everything kind of liquidy or moves the walls together. And that's how Fat Gum and Kirishima ended up in that like little dark space. And then you good? And then we got to learn more about Kirishima's backstory and everything like that. I don't know if I feel like that's all of the stuff we needed to catch up on. But in this episode, we kind of get an idea of how the League of Villains kind of like factor into this kind of Yakuza kind of storyline, and get a we get an idea of why people are kind of attracted to this kind of group and organization through the character that fought Fat Gum and Kirishima. We learn that the reason why he's um a villain in this case is that he was like a professional MMA fighter,
Mm.
and then he has this kind of stunt where he wants to win, which is like a lot of characters are kind of they want to be the person in victory.
The very best, like no one ever was.
Exactly like Pokemon, please.
Catch them is my.
No, stop! No, I don't need a copyright.
I feel like off topic. I feel like if you put the Pokemon theme to like heroes, it would make a lot of sense because you're trying to catch villains, right?
Yeah.
Catch them is my real test. Oh well, you can't train them, but like
You can't train villains. You can rehab villains, rehabilitate villains.
rehabilitation is my god.
Ah, jeez. I feel like once we hit this stride, hit our stride with these podcasts, I feel like it's just really funny. Like, anyways,
Rehabilitation is my cause.
So the way that this really buff guy, I don't know what his name.
The buff guy.
Yeah, the guy that fought Fat Gum and Kirishima. I keep on forgetting-
Sidecar.
Sidecar. Yeah, the defense dude and the other guy, and they told the backstory to how he got involved in the organization, and apparently he died a bunch of times, and it's through Overhaul's kind of quirk that I guess he dismantles and
Brings people
brings
back.
people back, which is kind of, if you really think about it, isn't that kind of like a very overpowered power?
To be able to bring someone back.
Yeah, you see in the episode that he totally obliterates his torso, and then he comes back as a character.
I mean, he is a head of a villain organization for a reason.
Yeah. And do you think, I don't know if this is spoiling, or like, do you think his powers are kind of much more because of what they're doing to Erie?
I don't think so. No, I think he probably had that beforehand.
That's
But
just kind of his natural power.
Yeah, but I feel like if anything, like we've mentioned before, like no matter if you're like a hero or a villain, right? Like
Right.
experience will get you somewhere.
Yeah.
So I feel like he probably started off with like a typical quirk somewhere, and then down the line he like kind of like fine tuned it to the point to where it is now.
Yeah.
And then like I don't think his quirk is enhanced by Eri at all.
Mm-hmm.
But I think his quirk is a catalyst for what they end up doing to Eri.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because I don't think they could have continued their research without him having that quirk.
Yeah. That's true.
Which is really sad. She's like a baby.
Yeah, she's just a kind of a victim of her own kind of situation, I guess. Like her own quirk is like is a reason why she's stuck in this situation, I feel.
But I think it's kind of sad because she's like a young kid. It's not like she knows what's going on.
Yeah, I feel like there would be more to this than what we're saying. Yeah. Yeah, we're not ahead yet.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not trying to play the victim card, blame her, but I feel like that she's in the situation because she's being exploited,
Yeah.
through her power.
Yeah.
Later on we kind of rendezvous with Deku and Night Eye and Eraserhead.
Mm-hmm.
And then we also see Lucio from Overwatch. Just kidding.
Can you like add a clip of him just being like
just a side by side, just like
no, what's his alt?
Well, his name is Rocklock, right?
Yeah, can you just add a voice sound and just being drop the beat? Lucio's just flying on the screen somewhere right now, just like a static image of him just.
I could try. I could try to figure out how to do that.
He does not look like Lucio.
Does he not?
don't think so.
Anyways, Toga, is that how you pronounce her name?
Toga, yeah.
Yeah, Toga basically stabs him in the hand and then kind of like takes his
She knocks him cold.
knocks him cold. She stabbed him in the back and then takes his form, tries to get Deku. Good thing that Eraserhead was there to kind of like stop all of that. And then she and Twice is considering splitting after that,
Mhm.
after all of that. And then we kind of get to a kind of flashback of why they kind of ended up there.
Mhm.
And then I think it was just through I think it was Tamura that kind of like convinced them to be in there because I think Toga still kind of feels um kind of resentment to what happened to the other teammates in the League of Villains.
Mhm.
And she still remembers that um the guy that the magician and they killed the other guy, right? I'm trying to remember. The
Big
one
sis.
Huh? Magna. They killed Magna, and so she's hesitant on kind of being involved with this kind of group. So her kind of saying that what happened at Rocklock and Deku, and then being beat and well not beat but just kind of leaving that situation. She's all like, well, I'm done. I don't want to deal with this
Mhm.
with these people. I don't think we see Tomura in the facility. We kind of see these two,
Yeah.
these two characters, but we did see the decision they made to be hooked up with this kind of like team.
Mm.
Yeah. What else? I think that's about it in this episode.
Next one.
Yeah.
Another one.
What was your overall kind of feelings on this episode? I guess we could just drag it out for a little minute while I get to the next.
I thought it was. Mm, I think it pushes the whole arc forward a little bit, right? Like it explains the motivations as to why like Toga and Twice are there.
Yeah, and that big guy. I'm trying to figure out
I
what's.
mean, I personally think that kind of helps a little bit with the storytelling because
Mhm.
like sometimes when you're watching anime, you're like looking and then you're like, oh look, the that guy is there. Why is he here?
I and also like these are two separate groups with two different modes of like motivation. I feel.
And they don't get along.
Yeah, and they're. I feel like the reason why she kind of still is really with the League of Villains on this decision is that she ultimately her allegiances is to Tamura and what's going on there, and whatever he decides, she'll just even though maybe she's probably hesitant, I feel like she would probably just kind of like begrudgingly still do it.
Yeah.
And then I think that there's like this what we saw in that episode. There's like this extended kind of relationship between Twice and her,
Mhm.
kind of like a brother sister situation. At least that's what I kind of felt out of it.
Mm.
And so that's why what I feel like that's the reasons why they're there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to cap the other part, the guy that Fat Gum and Kirishima defeat, it's really interesting to me that, um, well, not super interesting, but like in a sense that like his motivations is not really 100% aligned with the Yakuza organization.
Yeah.
You know, uh, he still kind of wants to be known as like this person that can beat anybody,
Mhm.
and I wouldn't say, yeah, yes, he's a villain in the sense that he's hooked up with this kind of Yakuza squad or whatever.
Mhm.
But I feel like he could have just killed them on the spot,
Yeah.
or if he had the strength, like his whole mo is like the battle to the death thing.
Mhm.
But he decides to like, okay, let's pause all of this, and his partner gets tied up in the end of it because his partner was like, oh, stay track on the plan, but like he's like, let's get you into fighting shape so I could actually beat you fairly,
Mhm.
sort of situation. So that's kind of the end of that episode. But we kind of move into this next episode. Whoops, that's my watch.
Ah.
Yeah, I got I forgot to silence my watch. Anyways, let's go to the next episode. The next episode is called Lemillion. Am I saying that right, Sidecar? Okay, good.
Lemon.
Trying to not.
Did we say the last episode was Lemillion?
It was Lemillion. That was a flub for the beginning. Like this was off camera flub. That I was like, isn't it
No, no, no. Didn't
Lemon
we
something?
just say the last episode was also Lemillion?
No, did we?
I feel like we did.
Did we do that? No, I named both of the episodes at the same time.
Uh.
I'm good. There's gonna be an edit where we're gonna be like, oh, let's go back to the recording.
Toss it back.
So yeah, Lemillion. Uh,
Lemon.
quite, quite you. Uh,
Banana boat.
this is a very Mirio centric episode. I feel.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and his fight, he basically he fights with one of the henchmen's for not Overwatch, Overhaul. Lucio is still in my brain right now. Uh, um, and his whole quirk is basically he's just kind of disorient
There you
disorients kind of like your balance almost. So like he's kind of like off kilter.
It makes you drunk.
Yeah, there was an internal monologue in my mind where I was just like, oh, he's just pissed drunk right now.
He's just drunk.
Beyonce.
Beyonce.
Literally what the power does.
Yeah.
It's Beyonce. He's Beyonce.
What?
Drunk in
Oh.
love.
I was like, when has Beyonce ever been drunk? But okay, oh, I don't need a copyright strike on my hands. Please. Please stop.
I wonder what would happen if Beyonce ever dressed
That's a lot of forbidden questions here.
Does Beyonce watch anime?
It would be cool if Beyonce actually watched anime.
That'd be pretty lit if Beyonce watched anime, actually.
Basically, yeah. So there's like two separate fights here. There's the fight between him and the person that does the disorients the kind of like the balance.
You're drunk.
Yeah, and
Beyonce.
please. and then the other major fight is him and Overhaul. He ends up
Yeah.
catching up with Overhaul and Aerie, and the big thing that happens in this episode is that he gets shot with the bullet that takes away quirks.
Poor, yeah.
Yeah, and then you get a little bit of backstory, like on the back end that Lemillion that like you see his dad,
Mm-hmm.
Papa Tintin,
Papa Tintin.
and kind of his upbringing, through
It's
all
sad,
that, yeah.
he's worked hard to get to where he is.
And this guy, there's that built up thing there where he was gonna be this person that behind the scenes that Night I saw as a successor to All Might.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been built up not only this season but last season. I feel
Mm-hmm.
that he was gonna be the next holder of One for All.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like you could imagine what is going through his mind in the sense of he understood his power
Yeah.
and what he was going to do with that power. But I think at that moment he also knew that he was trying to save this girl that on a bigger sense it's more important to save her and make sure that these things aren't being continuously produced, So what did you think about this episode?
I think I mentioned this in an episode before. I feel like I have like vague memories of saying something similar, but I feel like this episode kind of solidifies why Mirio is such a strong character, because even after he loses his quirk, he's able to put a fight up with Overhaul still. Like by the end of the episode, he's like torn up and messed up, but like I think he held his own very well. It's really unfortunate though. I want to point out that like a couple weeks ago, I think I mentioned this. I was on a Twitter called Pictures right before like tragic events or something like that, and there was a picture of Mirio looking at Eri right before he got shot.
I think is this the photo?
That is the photo.
Yeah, that is the photo.
And I watched this previously, and I was like, oh no, I know exactly what this is.
Yeah, and I think part of the, there was a split decision that he had, and I feel like, whether or not he did have a long-term kind of thought about it, but like I feel even if he didn't thought that at the moment, I feel like he feels that the long plays, like even though he won't have a quirk, he knows he's doing something good.
Isn't it kind of like ironic though, right? Like he loses his quirk saving the girl where the bullet originated from.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's kind of like ironic and sad.
It is, but the way that they were gonna the Yakuza like was gonna weaponize this, I feel like has more broader issues, I guess, in that.
I feel like it's also tragic that like when he first gets to her, she's like, "Why are you here?"
Yeah.
I think like that kind of like shows how long she's thought like there's probably no one that's going to come to save
she
me.
She probably like didn't think that anybody would have cared enough to save her.
But I think it also shows kind of like her humanity as a character, that she doesn't want anyone to do it because she knows how much they could put a person through.
Yeah, I was it last season or this season that like she didn't want to get anybody hurt. Like she wants to be rescued, but also didn't want people to get hurt over her.
I feel like that was the beginning, right?
I think that was the beginning of this season.
With Deku.
When Deku and I almost said Mineta.
Mineta, imagine
Mineta. Oh my god! Imagine Mineta being the.
He's inside.
He's the end game. He's the what's that character in Harry Potter that like it turns out like everybody's like, oh wait, he's the actual chosen one to.
No, I know who it is. It's the one that loses both his parents.
Yes.
Wait, no, he's not the actual chosen one.
But
No,
they just happen to be.
He could have.
He could have been. Yeah.
What's his name?
It's Neville Longbottom.
Neville Longbottom. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I feel like, I don't know.
Also, actor is super in shape now.
Yo.
I know.
I mean, if you watch the movies, like you can see his progression.
What kind of progression? Yeah. Just imagine the end game character turns out not instead of Deku is Mineta.
That is so weird.
Anyways,
Mineta is the actual best hero.
Yeah. End game character, Anyway, so
Deku's like walking around. I'm going to be the #1 hero. Mineta comes around, throws a ball. Psych.
I feel like that was an accurate almost depiction of Deku's voice actor.
That is totally not accurate.
Not accurate. Anyways, the episode kind of just ends on a cliffhanger where we get Mirio trying to attack Overhaul. It cuts there, but at the end of the credits, we get like a after credit scenes where Deku is basically crashing through. Careful.
You're fine.
Crashing through the wall. So
surprise.
that leads us to the next episode, but we're not gonna get into that episode until next week. So. Next time on this episode of the podcast. Hopefully this wasn't as loopy as last week's.
It's me. I'm always loopy. I never get actual.
The fact that I actually have a proper editing software, I'm gonna go a little bit wild on editing.
I feel like it's just mostly gonna be clips of you just being done with everything that I'm saying.
I was just like, I have my hand, like Picard, just like
Facepalm.
Facepalm. Yeah, sorry.
Beyonce is in My Hero Academia canon. Official.
Get that started. Imagine we get that started. Like, get Beyonce on anime.
Dude, that'd be so funny. Beyonce is actually in My Hero hidden.
She's been in animation before.
Sorry, I don't know why.
Lion
like,
King.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
see,
That's not a live action movie, y'all.
I don't know why when you said Beyonce was in animation, my head just immediately went Shakira and Zootopia.
Please stop. Anyways, hope you enjoyed this episode. Please check us out next time on the podcast, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye.
Hello, y'all. Welcome to the podcast. We're gonna have a great one today. I hate you so much.